This is Jennifer Rice, and today I'm here with my friend Kathleen, and she actually serves Metro Detroit. And Kathleen, I'm going to let you explain what that is, but how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Jennifer. Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to share and for everyone to get to know about our beautiful Mitten State.
Yes, we are very eager to hear about Michigan and, of course, the Detroit area. So, if you would you just tell us, about yourself, your family, and then kind of how you got into real estate?
Sure. Well, I cover and serve the Metro Detroit areas, which basically is the suburbs of Detroit, which would be north, east, and west of Detroit. And it's a very growing area where Detroit has been rebuilt and rebirthed. It's so much a fun place. We got all of our big sports professional teams that are doing fabulous. Right now, the Detroit Tigers, right? So go Tigers. And we've got the Detroit Lion football with our awesome coach, Dan Campbell, which I am a football fanatic. And so the suburbs of Detroit, meaning Northeast and West, it's a high demand. We have low inventory. That's the market that we have right now. And that's the market mostly that I serve. My office is downtown Rochester, which is one of the more, I'd say higher end areas, your Rochester, Rochester Hills. And then a lot of my first time home buyers and investors are looking in Royal Oak or Clawson or Madison Heights or Berkeley, Ferndale, Grosse Pointe areas, St. Clair Shores, because they're closer to the city. So to get downtown Detroit is like a 15-minute, 20-minute. So that's very attractive to investors, first-time home buyers, or the sports figures even. So that's, I live in Shelby Township, which is Macomb County. A lot of the desirable areas are Oakland County, but you pay more taxes if you live and buy in Oakland County versus Macomb County. So it's interesting. And I've been a realtor here in Michigan since 2012. I've
Oh,
always been with the brokerage of Keller Williams, and it's very near and dear to my heart as far as just I think the values and the culture of Keller Williams world, I embrace them as well. I am a Grammy of four granddaughters, so or all girls. We're
ooh.
hoping for a boy sooner or later than, we'll see what happens with my son when he gets married. So I have a daughter that lives here in Sterling Heights with two granddaughters, 3 and 9, and my daughter lives 10 minutes away in Sterling Heights, and they have their own hair salon. So I get a lot of my referrals actually from them, or when I have clients that move in from out of state, I let them know that if they need a good hairdresser or, what are their needs and desires. And then I have a daughter that lives in Colorado with two granddaughters, and they are
Mhm.
8 months old and 3. And my son just moved out there. He's a physician assistant. So I travel. I love traveling. And when I travel, I always try and meet up with my KW or non-KW agents, my referral business. So really, I help investors, I help buyers and sellers that are moving to other states or from other states. I work a lot with the Coast Guard and the VA loans because we have a lot of Coast Guard bases here.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of water, right? So the Coast Guard
Mhm.
bases are going to be by the water. Um, and it's a big passion of mine to help all of our military. Um, and I am passionate helping everyone grow and wealth build in their real estate portfolio. And it's probably my biggest joy is to go to the closing table, see that smile, whether they're moving from another state or, within here with my buyers and sellers and my investors.
Awesome. Well, if there's one thing I know about you is you love helping people. You love connecting with people. I mean, you are very popular in the Keller Williams world. You talk to everyone. You're always so helpful. And, another thing you didn't mention, you're so close to Canada. How close are you to Canada?
Oh, it's really close. So if I go, the closest route would be to go downtown Detroit and then you just cross the bridge into Windsor. So about 40 minutes, give or take the traffic, which we never know in the road construction here. And Windsor's fun. Like I've been over there. It's so much fun. I can get to Toronto in like 3.5 hours. Or when I'm driving to go see my family in Rochester, New York, or heading that way, I head north and go past Port Huron, and I go on this Sarnia bridge to get over to Canada. And that's about 45 minutes to an hour. And that can cut my driving time by a whole hour and a half to take that route, going to Canada to get to New York State versus just going through USA.
Wow, that is awesome. I always wondered, do you see a lot of people moving from the US to Canada or the Canada to your area? Do you see a lot of that?
That is a very good question, Jennifer. I see more Canada to the USA because it's very expensive to live in Canada. My
Mm,
son-in-law that lives in Colorado, married to my daughter, he's from Canada. And
okay.
he's got cousins that are late in their 30s, 35, 36. They still can't afford to buy a house. They have to rent.
Wow. Okay. And yes, I have heard that things in Canada are a lot more expensive, so that makes sense. And speaking of costs, in your area, so let's talk about your immediate area, maybe where your office is. It's Rochester, is that right?
Yes.
Um, what, and I know you have very low inventory. What would be like the median home price in your area, for example, for a
Sure.
single family home?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I just pulled my stats because we lag about a month behind when you pull up the quick
Sure.
stats for your multiple listing service. And I just pulled up Marches to explain that to my new buyers moving from out of state. So downtown Rochester, your average median price is roughly in the 480s. However, realistically, homes in the Rochester Hills area, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, roughly 2,400 square feet are going to run you 500,000 to like maybe that 480 high, but really up to the 5 or 6. That's your average. And it's very low inventory, about a month and a half of supply. I live in Shelby Township, which is Macomb County, which is 5 minutes from my office. So it's such a fine line of Oakland County, which is more taxes, versus Macomb County, which is a little bit less taxes. Both good school systems, both fun places. Where I live in Shelby Township, the average sale price is about more like a 390, 400, so a little bit less. However, once again, we have low inventory. And I'm seeing on most of my buyers, multiple offers. Now in Sterling Heights, which is a very popular area in Macomb County, which is 10 minutes away from me, your average home is more like your 330, 320. So
Okay.
more buying power. Okay. So that's really good for all of my clients to know based on their mortgage approval and what their budget can afford.
Sure. So, first time home buyers are probably going to those areas where it's a little lower, and we are in the Midwest. So in general, Midwest, Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, Ohio, we are fairly low cost. And I think, people from other states, out west and out east would say, wow, that's still a
Right.
great price.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah. I wanted to ask you, so, are people looking to your area to invest? There is a low inventory, but and you mentioned some of those areas where people, investors want to invest. Tell me a little bit about those areas.
Yes, we are a very desirable state for investing because, like we just said, cost of living is lower and the average unit is lower, and Detroit is booming. So at one point, I was working with too many investors. Like that's not my total niche. I'll
Sure.
work with a couple of them, but when they want to buy 5 or 10 properties, it's very time consuming. So I do refer that different ways to my referral partners, either in my office or in my area.
Mhm.
And the really attractive purchase for investing right now are for Airbnbs because our sports, all four of our professional sports are doing very well. So we have a lot of people coming into town for the games from out of state, and they're looking rather than staying at the hotels, maybe with their family or friends in Airbnb. So that's a very good investment. Also, flipping right now and for rentals, we have a lot of demand for rentals because of the past economy and current economy and inflation. There are still people with credit scores that are hurting and they had to use a lot of their credit, they're charging more. So they're stuck in that, space of renting, and we have a very low inventory for that. So that's two different opportunities, Airbnb for rentals and then for flipping. However, we have like 50 investors looking, not just two. So it's once
Sure.
again, right? The supply and demand, the deals aren't going to be great unless you're finding a really totally dilapidated house. Um, and I can say one of my popular areas for investors is Royal Oak, Clawson, Berkeley, Ferndale, where you've got your, I guess, millennials, your upper edge of millennials that both work and have the money and are at that level they can afford to buy a house for 700,000 to a million plus, a renovated house. So investors are buying these little, we call them bungalows or cottages,
Mhm.
like 2 bedroom, 3,000 square feet, been there forever, and they tear them down and rebuild these beautiful, now
Mm.
million plus or 900,000 plus beautiful homes. Which, like for you in Indiana, that'd be to like taking one of your areas that's slowly coming up and about, right? And
Mm.
Royal Oak is attractive, or Berkeley or Ferndale or Clawson, because it's 15, 20 minutes of downtown Detroit.
Mm. Okay.
So
Yeah.
last year I sold one of those homes to the new Detroit Tigers conditioning coach
Yeah.
because he's got two small children and his wife, they wanted easy access to get downtown. And that's been a great client for me. It was an agent referral from a Keller Williams luxury agent, which is another huge part of my business.
And yes, and I knew that luxury was a big part of your business, which I'm glad you brought up that coach because one thing I was going to ask, with you guys having so many amazing sports teams, hockey, basketball, football, baseball. I mean, you guys have it all. It's a lot bigger sports town than Indianapolis. Um, I'm assuming that you work with multiple sports, sports figure, or you're working with agents and things like that. That's probably a big part of your business, right?
Well, I'm actually working on getting that to be bigger, and it's a very hard population of clients to get into because it's a big part is confidentiality, non-disclosures, um, and getting your foot in the door. So I am part of Keller Williams Sports Entertainment, which is
Mhm.
a subgroup in our family of Keller Williams International. And I just revamped my whole process and what I'm doing because you are on a different level, and it's very hard to get to the people that you need to talk to. It's usually the agents or the lawyers, and
Mm.
it's a lot, getting the referrals. And we have a wonderful director of Keller Williams Sports Entertainment, and we mastermind, and it's a very small knit 300-ish amount of people. And I'm a sports fanatic. I do like music, and I've sold Paul Kingery's house from Three Dog Night. He was in Franklin, Michigan, but moved to St. Simon's Island, and we're good friends, and it's publicly on Facebook. So I can disclose that. I can't disclose all the sports figures, or any of the sports figures because it is about confidentiality and privacy.
Mm.
But I love it. I mean, with our sports teams, I gear more gravitate towards the football and the hockey because that's what I know. I'm getting more exposed to the baseball because of my client, and I love all sports, and it's a great opportunity, to meet new people.
It's so awesome that Detroit has all that because that brings in so many tourism dollars and it's just so good for the city and I love that. So if someone was wanting to, move to your area, say their job transferred them because you have a lot of corporations there and you have a lot of headquarters. Um, what is there to do in your area that people would, you'd want people to know about?
Sure. Well, the whole state of Michigan is known for our water. We have a lot of water, a lot of, fresh lakes and the big lakes. So we have what the big attraction is, obviously, is the water, the hiking, the camping, the outdoors. And also, like I said, Detroit, downtown Detroit is just amazing. And not just for sports, we have great culture in the arts and in entertainment, and the Fox Theater is like a historical theater. I've seen a couple different plays there. So the opportunities to have that cultural world and within your fingertips. Like if you live in Royal Oak or any one of those areas or St. Clair Shores or Grosse Pointe, you're literally 15 minutes from downtown Detroit. Now, where I live at Shelby Township, Washington Township area, Macomb, you're like maybe 35 minutes or 40 with traffic. So I go down quite often. So the state also, for my out-of-state buyers that move here, it's cost of living. It's Midwesterners are pretty cool. Like I'm from New Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl. I love the Jersey Shore, but the Midwestern lifestyle is a little bit on a slower pace compared to like your New Jersey or California. So there's really, and the job market here is really good. We have different companies moving in. We've got Rocket Mortgage in downtown. Dan Gilbert is just constantly investing. We have United Wholesale Mortgage, which is Dan Ishbia, and he owns the Arizona Pro basketball team. I
Oh,
forget the name
okay.
of them. A lot of job opportunities. We got the big three automotive, and it's a very reasonably desirable state to live in and the cost of living.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here in Indianapolis, and when people think of the Midwest, we want them to think, it's a really easy way of life. It's very affordable. I know here in Indy, our taxes are pretty low compared to some of the
Mhm.
other parts of the country, and I'm assuming the same in your area. Is that right?
Yes, yes, very reasonable, percentage wise. And I always, when I talk to people moving from California or even New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, it's about it could be like 2 to 5% less in taxes, which, you know, that could be a lot of money. And it's just a very fun state. You're never bored. We have 4 seasons, which I love.
Yes.
You never know what you're going to get. You could have 3 or 4 seasons all in the month, like right now. I will experience 3 different seasons in the month of April. It could snow. It could go down and freeze during the night. 2 weeks ago, it went as high as 78, 79. If it's 50 degrees here, people wear flip-flops and shorts because that's a heat wave.
It is. Listen, that's how we do in the Midwest, you
Yeah.
know? So, I mean, if someone's looking for a low cost of living, like I said again, and I'll always say this in the Midwest, I believe with all my heart that we have such an easy way of life compared to the rest, a lot of the country.
Uh-huh.
Just a very easy way of life. You have a really thriving downtown, which is
Yes.
amazing. And, if you love sports, if you love all the culture, then your area is definitely a place that people should consider, investing or,
Mm.
now one last question. When people are thinking of retiring, because our whole country right now, there's a huge chunk of that population that is thinking about retiring, downsizing, and things like that. Are there areas in your state where you see that a lot? Are there areas where you see a lot of people going to retire, if you will?
Sure. That's a good question, Jennifer. And actually, I'm experiencing that with a couple clients right now. And my title gal, who's title manager, um, we do retirement in Michigan. I have 3 clients that moved to Florida and Arizona to retire. And guess what? They're coming back to Michigan because of the grandkids. So they did, or they're keeping the home as a second home in Florida,
Sure.
but moving back to Michigan or buying a condo in Michigan because they want to be by the grandkids. And then the other opposite end of that is a lot of people that I'm working with buyers to either retire or downsize. They're from Michigan, they love Michigan, they don't want to move, they'll let their kids come see them, but they're moving on the lakes. They want to retire on the lakes. Like for example, Traverse City, which is north, takes me about 3.5, 4 hours to go to Traverse City, or even closer than that is Houghton. I think I'm saying it's Houghton or Houghton Lake and Higgins Lake. There's a lot of lakes. So they want to retire on the water. And we were boating, fishing, hunting. So it's kind of a little bit of both. And I have a lot of my baby boomers, because I'm a baby boomer, I'm 65. A lot of my baby boomer families, if they don't have the kids that live here to be by the grandkids, they're selling. They're calling me to sell and get a home equity analysis now, and then moving, to the other areas or downsizing, either or. So there's kind of like 2 sides to it. So it's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and that's really awesome that they can go to the lakes. In northern Indiana, it seems like a lot of people who retire go to the lake area as well. So
Right.
that makes sense. Um,
And
I'm so
unfortunately,
thankful.
we do have snow, right, in the Midwest.
Oh,
We
yeah.
get snow. So you do have
Yes.
some people like myself, like baby boomer, that they don't want any more snow. So they have the second home. They're buying the second home in the warmer states. And it, whether it be Florida, Tennessee is really pretty hot right now, popular, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Arizona. So that's where I refer a lot of my baby boomers to my referral partners in those areas to buy the second home, and then they might, be snowbirds and come back and forth. So that's another part of the big population.
Exactly. I've always wanted to go, and of course I can. I've always wanted to go to, what is it, Mackinac Island?
Oh, yes. Beautiful.
Someday I'll make it there. I don't know.
Well, we'll
I've
have to
always,
make that, put that on our calendar, Jennifer, that I'll meet you there. So
oh
Mackinac
yeah.
Island is one of the, very fun tourist attractions here in Michigan, besides Traverse City. And you go over the Mackinac Bridge and you have to take a ferry out to Mackinac Island because no cars are allowed on the island. So it's either you ride a bicycle, you walk, or you take the horse carriages. And it's the Grand Hotel is where every president has stayed, and it's a very old hotel, and it's almost like the original decor inside, but it is the coolest place to stay.
Oh my gosh, I've seen so many videos and I'm just like, I have to get there someday. And I know I will. I know. And it's what, probably
Yeah.
what, 10 hours from us? I don't know how far, but
Right.
it's
But it's the
not that.
time, right? We just have to put it on our calendar. And that's why in the state of Michigan, for me to drive, so we have a part of Michigan, like it's the mitten and you have the peninsula called the UP. For me to drive from where I live, I'm north of Detroit, so I live in Shelby Township or Rochester. For me to drive up and over, it's a peninsula, to go all the way to the tip, and I've done it, is about 13 hours. That's how big the state of, I can drive
Wow.
to New Jersey in 10 and a half hours. But to get the whole tip of Michigan is 13 hours.
Wow. So it's like, and I will say, Michigan's so different. Like you said, the really northern areas, those northern lakes, it's so different probably than Detroit, which is different than,
Hmm.
other areas. I've been to Holland. I really liked that
Oh,
area.
Holland,
That was
Michigan,
really good.
yes. The Tulip Festival is coming up in May.
Oh, yes, I thought that was so awesome. Well,
Right.
if people are thinking from other parts of the country to come to your area, again, it's a low cost of living, a great quality of life. And Kathleen, she's going to be the one to be able to help you. I really appreciate you talking with me and explaining what areas you serve and telling us more about your area. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, I thank you for the opportunity. The one thing I forgot to mention, because I do work with a lot of doctors, we get a lot of doctors to come in to do their residencies because we have a lot of great programs at University of Michigan, Michigan State, Wayne State, but we also have a lot of hospitals that are well known at downtown Detroit and also in the suburbs. So I work with a lot of doctors that are coming to do their residence, and then they either stay here and, buy a bigger home, or they leave after their residency is up. So I do work with a lot of the doctors, physician assistants, nurses, traveling nurses, that group of people, that's a big part of a demand in Michigan.
So you're definitely the resource for all sorts of groups. But yeah, that's a huge group, and that's an important group because they're constantly, moving, getting their
Yes.
residency changed and things like that. Well, thank you so much for everything, and I appreciate you talking today. And hopefully, we can talk soon. But if anyone's interested in moving to that Metro Detroit area, Kathleen's
I'm
your
your
gal.
girl. Just
Thank
KG,
you.
just KG Homes. And I always just say my tagline is let's go and grow.
Let's go and grow. I like it. Have a
Thank you,
great
Jennifer,
day.
for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to come and see you again in Indianapolis.
Oh, thank you. We could look forward to it. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.